and welcome to the Hillbilly Chicken Ranch. I'm Susan, I'm your hostess, and today we are doing another freezer clean out pantry meal, and this one is going to be like a meatloaf hamburger patty, and you can actually do these up and freeze them ahead of time with fresh meat. Get them in the freezer, and when you're ready to cook them, you can cook them. Well, I'm doing it the backwards way, and I'm making them coming out of the freezer. And that's what's for supper tonight. We're going to use up some of our ground beef. And normally I use any kind of breakfast sausage that I have on hand, and I would use about a pound of breakfast sausage. These are some that we had in the freezer. Hubby didn't really care for them too much. He's the one that eats the sausage around here, so I have allowed these to defrost. We're going to mix that with the hamburger meat, and we are going to have a really good meatloaf hamburger patty that you can serve with meal, with any kind of vegetables that you want to, and it's going to be portion control. So if you're looking for portion control, this is a way to do it. I think you're going to like this recipe. It's very similar to my meatloaf recipe. It's just that I've cut back a little bit on some of the ingredients. So let's get this party started. Alrighty now. I've already shown you the hamburger and the sausage, but we are going to use, poultry seasoning for our flavoring. I've got 2 eggs out here that I'm going to crack. I have chopped up an onion. It's about 1 cup of onion, about 1 cup of bell pepper, and I'm going to saute that in my skillet, and 1 cup of oatmeal, some extra virgin olive oil, EVOO, and some canned tomato sauce. So before I get started with the meat, I'm going to go ahead and get my skillet, about a tablespoon or 2 of olive oil, and I'm going to crank the heat up on that. We're going to get that hot, and we're going to get our onion and bell pepper sauteed. The reason I'm doing it in the skillet is to save on time of cooking later on, because I want the onion and the bell pepper to be done when it goes into the meatloaf patties. And I will allow that to cool a little bit before I incorporate it into my meat. So we're going to get that in our skillet and get that going. I'm going to save one of these for my eggs to be cracked in. And we're going to start working on our meat. Anybody that doesn't like handling raw meat, this is the time for you to skip over this part of the video. Or you can, well, those scissors aren't sharp. Hang on a minute. Sometimes it takes more than 1 pair of scissors in the kitchen. There we go. You don't want to, if you don't want to see the meat being handled, then you need to skip over this part of the video. We're going to get this out of the way. And I'm going to go ahead and get my meat in my bowl. And I'm going to go ahead and add in my sausage that my husband didn't care for. And we're just going to use this up. Any other time I would be using a rolled sausage, a 1-pound package. So we've got the meat in there. I'm going to go ahead and crack my eggs. There it goes. I always crack them separate because I don't want any eggshell going into my food. And there's another reason. That egg is full of blood. So I'm not going to use that egg. I want to grab another egg out of my refrigerator. Now I saved the old crinkly eggs for us. And I usually will do them up and put them in the freezer. This one's better. So we got a good egg in there. So that's going in there, and my cup of oatmeal. And my last ingredient is going to be the same. And I'm going to use about a teaspoon. This is actually a half a tablespoon, but I'm going to use about a teaspoon of that. A little salt and pepper. Get my lid back on there. Those peanut butter jar lids work really good on these. And I'm going to give this a toss in the skillet and turn my burner down. I'm looking to saute it. I'm not trying to burn it. So I'm going to get that sauteed. We're going to get all this mixed together in just a moment. I've added a half a teaspoon of salt and a half a teaspoon of pepper. My camera went down. I do apologize. You don't need to add a lot of salt because the sausage has salt in it, and your tomato sauce more than likely has salt in it. Also, my vegetables are pretty much done. I'm just going to turn the burner off and allow that to cool, and I'm going to cover that to kind of soften up the bell peppers. I'm just going to cover this up. The lid doesn't even have to fit the pot. Now I'm going to get my hands into the meat. So if you don't like watching people with their hands in the meat, please don't watch this part of it. And I'm just going to start mixing this together and incorporating everything together in my bowl. And I'm making this ahead for meals also. We can eat off this a couple of nights because it makes some nice burger patties. You could also do these in muffin tins if you want to. You can do the raw meat in the muffin tin with the liner and freeze it, and then take them out of the muffin tin, throw them in a bag, and then you can bake them in the oven like you would your meatloaf. And my cat's over there chasing a mouse, y'all. You may hear some noise in the background. We are living on a farm after all, out in the middle of the country, and we do get field mice this time of year. And my husband has already laid out some traps for them. But we have a mouser in the house, which is really nice to have. You can see I've almost got it all incorporated. You want that sausage and everything mixed in really good. And I'm going to add in just a little bit of the tomato sauce, probably about a tablespoon, maybe two, into my meat mixture because we want a little bit of that tomato flavor in there. And if I have to, I'll add a little more oatmeal to it, but I should be all right with this. And again, I'm just mixing it really good. You can use instant oatmeal. This happens to be whole oats that we buy, and we just prefer them. You can use crackers, but crackers are salty to us, so we don't use crackers. And the oatmeal is actually healthier for us than a cracker would be. So I pretty much got that sausage incorporated. Everything else is looking good. Okay, now I know it's still hot. But I'm going to add a little bit at a time and just work it into the meat. Because I don't want to touch it, but I don't want it to cook my meat either. And that's just going to cool it down a little bit. A little bit at a time. Mix it in. It's getting close to time for my husband to come home. And we know when the men come in the door, they're hungry. He's going to say, "What's for supper, honey?" Or, "Can you fix me a plate? I got to go out and take care of the chickens." It's normally what he'll say. And I'll say, "Yes, I can fix you a plate." So I did. I did put the poultry seasoning in. It's about a teaspoon of poultry seasoning. That's what I used in this. So it's a little less than what I would normally put in a meatloaf. And I'm just going to finish getting this out of the skillet, and I'll be right back. Okay, I've got the last of it in my bowl here, and I'm just going to continue to mix this in and get it really incorporated into this hamburger and sausage mix for meatloaf. And I know my bell peppers are on a large size. It's whatever I feel like slicing them up that day or cutting them up that day. That's how they go in my freezer. So it has formed a ball, which is what you would want for a meatloaf. And I have my handy dandy hamburger press, and I have a lid to one of the bowls, and I'm just going to use that as a base instead of pulling out a plate. And we're just going to form this into hamburger patties. I think I'm going to go kind of heavy on it and press it down in there. And we have a nice thick hamburger. Drop it in the skillet. And it just depends on if you do a full pound of meat or not, how many you're going to get out of this. You would need a pound of hamburger and a pound of breakfast sausage. So there's my second one. I'm just going to set them in the skillet that I used to do my onions and bell peppers up. And you can do these as thick as you want or as thin as you want. And drop it in the skillet. I'm probably going to get 6, maybe 7 out of these. I'm thinking about 6. And you could also fry up some bacon and put on top of this. If you freeze them, put them on a cookie sheet to freeze them, a lined cookie sheet with parchment on it. And I think I'm going to get 6 out of this. So this is a good way to do portion control, especially if your tendency is to overeat, like ours is. And I'm going to get this one pressed out. So you can see that is the meatloaf burger. Let me wash my hands and I'll be right back. Now I've covered this skillet. I've actually pulled out the second skillet over here to do the last two burgers up because I'm wanting to get this all said and done. And the reason I cover this is I want them to cook evenly and not splatter everywhere. And like I said, if you don't have a hamburger press, that's okay. You don't have to have a hamburger press. You can do it in muffin tins. You can make your hamburger patties by hand. There's a number of ways you can do this. So we're going to let these cook until they're done. And then we're going to top them with the remainder of the tomato sauce and a little cheese on top. And that will be supper. Now, the majority of these are going to go back into the freezer because I want a quick meal that won't take us very long to eat. And it won't take long to heat it up, or, you know, it'll be a fast food kind of deal. So that's what I'm looking at here. And I did put a little bit of olive oil in my skillet back there because that's what I sauteed my onions and my bell peppers in. And there was some left in the skillet up here. So they'll all come out about the same time. I'm going to do a little bit of a taste test for you. It tastes really good, y'all. I think you're going to like that recipe. I'm going to put some hot water in my skillet so it don't burn. I'm turning that back burner off. And we're going to call it a day. Thank you for watching.